Welcome to reading section fill in the blanks, multiple select, practice set number 1. As we saw in the introduction section, in this kind of question, it's again fill in the blanks, but instead of selecting from a group of words and then dragging them into your blanks, what you'll see a drop down. So when you click, you'll see a drop down list of different word options for each blank, and you have to select the correct word from those options. Okay, so that's how it will appear in the exam. In our practice sessions, the way we are going to go about it, you'll see these different words in a bracket separated by commas. So after a blank, you'll see a bracket and the word separated by commas. So from those words you have to pick, you have to identify the right word. Pretty much the similar rules, the same approach that we followed in the earlier fill in the blank section in the reading, the same approach we'll follow here. So try to pick the word that makes sense grammatically as well as logically with the words before it and with the words after it. All right. For each question, I'll give you 1 minute 30 seconds because the passages are usually longer than the ones which you had earlier. All right. So with that, it's time to get started now. Let's go to question number 1. All right, that's 90 seconds. If you need a bit more time, you can pause the video. Otherwise, let's go ahead and have a look at the answers. Here we are. So the very first blank, a golf course, blank of a series of holes, and the options given to you are contains, consists, occupies, and makes. Now, out of these, the only word that goes with of is consists. A golf course consists of, uh, let's say we didn't have the of there, right? Or, yeah, if we didn't have the of there, then a golf course contains a series of holes would have made sense. Okay, and if we didn't have makes, but let's say we had something like a golf course is made up of, then also that would have been correct. But in the absence of all those options, the only correct one is consists. So a golf course consists of a series of holes. The next one, each with a teeing ground that is set off by two markers showing the blank of the legal tee area. Now, grammatically, if you think about it, you can put ends, showing the ends of the legal tee area, showing the beauty of the legal tee area, showing the bounds of the legal tee area. They're all correct except for distance. Because you never say distance of, you always say distance to. Yes? So distance to that place is very large. Okay? The distance to that place is 100 kilometers. Now, they're talking about two markers. So maybe on the ground, they have made two markers. And the purpose actually is to show the boundary that between these two you have the legal T area. So that's why we are using bounds, because in this case it conveys a more logical sense, a much more logical meaning here. The third blank, the levels of grass are varied to blank difficulty or to allow for putting in the case of the green. So they change, are varied, means they increase or decrease the levels of grass. Now, are varied to simplify difficulty. You don't really simplify difficulty, you reduce the difficulty or you decrease the difficulty. Control to control difficulty, possibly, yeah, so let's keep it as one possible option. To high difficulty, not high, increase instead, is possible. And when you look at the two options, increase and control, now they change the grass level because they want to make it more difficult, right? And again, in this case, increase conveys a better sense than just control. So that's why we are using increase. Next one, sometimes a hole's blank may bend twice. This is called the double dog leg. Now, a hole's what can bend twice? Hole's width can bend twice. Width never bends, right? Hole's color, color again won't bend. Difficulty again won't bend. So the only thing that can bend, that can turn left, that can turn right, or turn in another direction is essentially the direction. So sometimes a hole's direction may bend twice. This is called the double dogleg. And the last one, a regular golf course consists of 18 holes, but 9-hole courses are blank and can be played twice through for a full round of 18 holes. Now what they're saying is that usually a golf course has 18 holes, but 9-hole courses are what? Are preferred. But if they were preferred, then why would a regular golf course be 18 holes? Are disliked. No one says that they are disliked. Are critical doesn't make any sense here. Are common. So what it's saying that though the regular golf course is 18 holes, but it's also common to see golf courses with 9 holes, and that when you have that you can play it twice. So that's why we go with common here. It's important to note, right? You have to make sure that the meaning is conveyed right. And sometimes when there are options which seem similar, or possibly there can be more than one options which will look like they can be correct, then you have to go with the one which simply makes more sense in that particular context, in the context of that passage. All right. If you want, you can always go back and review these questions, or just come to this practice set again and replay it. Uh, okay. Because it's important that you get the fundamentals right, you um, understand the process and get into the habit of doing that. Okay. Ready for question number 2 now? All right. Here we go. All right, that's your 90 seconds. Let's go ahead and have a look at our answers. There you are. So it's another passage. Looks like they're continuing with the golf theme. So let's start and have a look at the first blank. When the initial shot on a hole is blank to move the ball a long distance, the shot is blank. So the initial shot on a hole is dragged to move the ball a long distance. Uh, what would it mean, right? The initial shot on the hole is measured to move. The shot is nope. The initial shot on a hole is powerful to move the ball. Again, nope. So someone would hit the shot, right? And if they hit the shot in a particular way, then the shot is commonly. Sorry, I went to the second blank. Then the shot is something called a drive. So if someone has to do that, then they have to do that with something in mind, and that's why the right option here is intended. So when someone intends to means they want to, okay, they do something with keeping that in mind, that they want to move the ball a long distance, then the shot is blank, called a drive. The shot is therefore called a drive. Nope, because you would say that if there was an explanation before. Controversially called a drive. There's no controversy here. The shot is arguably called a drive. It would be arguable if someone was saying something else and the other person was saying something else. But in this case, it's normal, so it's commonly called a drive, and is generally made with a long-shafted, large-headed wood club called a driver. Okay, the next one. Once the ball comes to blank, the golfer strikes it again. So once the ball comes to what? That the golfer can strike it again. The ball comes to speed. Nope, because if it's already moving, how would the golfer strike it? The ball comes to fruition. Now, grammatically, it's correct, right? But it's usually an effort or your endeavor, something that you are doing, a project that comes to fruition. A ball or a thing never comes to fruition. Once the ball comes to incline, now again, it doesn't make any sense. So the only one that's left is rest. That once the ball comes to rest, once the ball stops, then the golfer strikes it again. The next one, the goal of getting the ball into the hole in as few strokes as blank may be impeded by obstacles. Now they're saying that there's the goal to get the ball into the hole in as few strokes as. So you have to think, which word have you heard commonly saying, as this, as few strokes as achievable, as few strokes as practical, in as few strokes as near. So the only one is in as few strokes as possible. Okay, because that's what you want to do. So, yeah, the goal of getting the ball into the hole in as few strokes as possible out of that may be impeded by obstacles such as areas of longer grass called rough, which both slows any ball that contacts it and makes it harder to blank a ball that has stopped on it. So makes it harder to what? Makes it harder to believe. Now, why would you believe in a ball, right? Makes it harder to think a ball. You won't think a ball. You might think about a ball in some other context, but you won't think a ball. Makes it harder to stop a ball that has stopped. Now you won't stop something that has already stopped. So it doesn't make any sense. Makes it harder to advance a ball that has stopped on it. So that makes sense that a ball that has stopped on long grass makes it harder to advance means makes it harder to move further, move forward. So that's the meaning of advance here. You would have noticed that some of these words, advance, for example, it can have different meanings in different contexts, right? So making an advance means approaching someone. Advancing the project or a ball means moving it forward. You also have your payment advance means getting payment before you have done something or getting a part of it before you have completed something. So if any of the words confuse you and you might think that this has a different meaning, then it's possible that that particular word has more than one meanings. So note it down and work on it to make sure that you remember all of that for the exam. The more words you know, the more you know about the usage of the words, the stronger you will be in all of these reading and listening comprehension kind of questions. All right, ready for the next question? Okay, let's go ahead. Question number 3. All right, that's 90 seconds. Let's go ahead and have a look at the answers. Here we are. So the very first one, the development of firearms, blank, bows obsolete in warfare. So the development of firearms, it made something happen. It bows obsolete. So made bows obsolete in warfare. So which of these words closely resembles that meaning? Reduced bows. You never use reduced in a context like that. You could have said that the development of firearms reduced the number of bows used in warfare, but not reduced bows obsolete. The next one, rendered bows obsolete. Yes, that's a correct answer because rendered, in this case, it's similar in meaning to made. So the made bows obsolete. Obsolete means no longer in use, no longer needed. Transferred bows obsolete doesn't make any sense. Transferred to what? Increased bows obsolete. Again, that's neither logical nor does it fit grammatically. So the correct word is rendered. The next one, in England for blank, the government tried to enforce practice with the English longbow. Now, uh, you would have seen this in your experience, right? When you say in this and sometimes in this context for something, uh, it's quite simple. Most of the people, you know that you use example with for. So, for example, the government tried to enforce. The other option for importance. Now, the government would try. Why would the government try to do that for importance? And importance of what? That's not clear in this context. For greatness, again, doesn't show a very good meaning. In England, for people, the government tried to enforce practice. Again, doesn't make any sense. So the only correct option here is example. The next one. This was because it was recognized that the bow had been blank to English military success during the Hundred Years' War. Bow had been something to the success of. So, if let's say I was to say that this weapon had been something to the success of, then logically thinking that this weapon had played a role, right? Had uh, maybe is responsible for the success. So now you need to think of the words out of these which are similar in meaning to that. That the bow had been useless to the success, had been useless to English military success doesn't make any sense. The next one, instrumental, had been instrumental to English military success. Now, instrumental is a word that you use in such context. It means has been an instrument of, or has been useful in something. So that's why instrumental is the correct option. Well, let's also look at the other options. Had been instrumentation to, now that doesn't make any um, sense there. It doesn't. It's not correct grammatically. Uh, the next one, ornamental. The bow had been ornamental. Now, ornament is something which is for decoration, so that doesn't make any sense there. Okay, so between instrumental and instrumentation. Now, instrumentation is essentially, you would say, an arrangement of uh, instruments. Okay, so it's a thing actually. But what we are describing here in this blank, we need to tell something about the bow, a role that it's played, and that's why we go with instrumental. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next blank. All Yeah, India, Japan, Korea, Turkey, and elsewhere, almost every blank that gained access to even early firearms used them widely. So now they're talking about these different countries. Almost every blank, almost every person, no, because the person it doesn't relate to the countries. I mean, it's not the same as the country. A person belongs to the country, but what we need to find out is something which has a similar meaning as a country. So a culture, yes, a culture does make sense. Egypt, England, America, all of these cultures, when they found firearms, they used them. Almost every army. Now, our army could also be correct because all of these countries would have had an army. So let's keep that as an option. Almost every group, uh, not a group because group is usually at a smaller level. So for example, a group of people. But when it's at a larger level, you need to find a word such as country or culture. Okay. Um, the other thing we wanted to have a look was why our army is not a correct option. So start from the beginning of the sentence. Despite the high social status, ongoing utility, and widespread pleasure of archery in Armenia, China, these countries, and elsewhere, almost every culture. Now, see, this culture, it has to relate to uh, the countries in the sense of ongoing utility as well as pleasure of archery. You know, so but when it comes to army, it has a smaller focus. So if it was just about the war, right? That in all the wars in army, China, etc., etc., almost every army that gained access, then it would have made sense. But what we are looking for here is a better word to represent these countries, and that's why we use culture. Okay. The last blank now. In the common situations of soldiers blank at each other from behind obstructions. Now, what is it that soldiers at each other from behind obstructions? What is it that they would do? Spitting. They won't spit at each other. Throwing at each other, but throwing what? Shooting. We are talking of firearms, so shooting makes sense. Cursing at each other's. Now, it grammatically makes sense. Yes, the soldiers, like people, they can curse each other, but it doesn't make any logical sense because we are talking about firearms, we are talking about soldiers. So shooting makes more sense. And that's why we go with shooting here. All right. Time to go to the next question now. Question number 4. All right, that's 90 seconds. Let's go ahead and have a look at the answers now. The first one, Downers Grove is blank to many unique boutique shops, dining establishments, and community events. So, out of all these options, let's look one by one. Is welcome to many. Now, it doesn't make any sense. You could have said that Downer Groves welcomes people to community events, something like that. But in this case, it doesn't make any sense. Home is home to many unique boutique shops. That makes sense because you would have commonly heard people saying that this city is home to Texas Rangers, or this city is home to the company that makes the best potato chips, something like that, right? So that's why home is an option. The next one is house. Downers Grove is house to. So you never say house to, you always say home to. The next one is central to many unique boutique shops. So now again, you don't say it's central to. You can say that um, y- y- the that the boutique shops they are in the central area of Downers Grove, something like that. But Downers Grove in itself is not central to because it's a place which has things in it, which has these shops and other establishments in it. So the right word is home. The next one, downtown Downers Grove has blank become a shopping and dining destination. So when you say uh, has become something, has dash become, so you have to find a word, that can add to the meaning of become there, that, quality of becoming. So has famously become, uh, yep, that grammatically makes a sense. So let's put it, still keep it in our consideration. Next one, has greatly become a shopping and doesn't make any sense. Has quickly become, that's something you hear often. That he has quickly become uh, the highest paying CEO in the country, something like that. He has quickly become the best sports person, something like that. The next one, majorly, has majorly become. Now you'll never say has majorly become. You'll say it has become a major shopping and dining destination. So that's not correct. So the only word that makes sense here is quickly. Has quickly become because it describes, that how fast it has become. Okay, has famously become might be correct that it became an, but there has to be more context to describe us to describe to us, to tell us that what was the famous thing about it, because a lot of other places would have become a shopping and dining destination. So in the passage there's nothing to uh, that focuses on that fame part. So quickly therefore makes more sense, and that's our selected option. The next one, the Tivoli Theatre and over 140 community events and festivals which blank thousands of visitors each year. So festivals, what do festivals do to the visitors? Visitors go to the festivals, and festivals attract, right? And that's why it's our correct option. But let's have a look at the blanks as well, which count thousands of visitors. Now, festivals don't count, right? You can count the number of visitors who came to the festival, but the festivals by themselves will not count. Next, threaten. Why would the nothing to say that a festival would threaten, which disperse again doesn't make any sense. Festival won't disperse. People will disperse after the festival; they'll go away. Uh, but by itself, the festival it attracts. So that's your correct option. The next one, over 600 acres of parks for recreational use are available, with 450 recreational blank are available throughout the year. So, 450 recreational something are available throughout the year. What's that something? 450 recreational seats are available. Doesn't tell us something. 450 recreational prices. Now prices are of something. 450 recreational journeys are available. Now it might have made sense, but it's not something that you hear often. That's a place offers 450 recreational journeys. Rather, the most common that you hear is recreational activity. So that's why 450 recreational activities means 450 recreational things to do are available throughout the year. And the last one, the high school sporting events and local band concerts draw large crowds. Blank, the annual football game between North High School and South High School. So there's a word that you need which says that in general the high school events and local bands, their concerts, they draw large crowds. And then there has to be a word that highlights one event in particular, the annual football game between Downers Grove North High School and the Downers Grove South High School. So which of these words has a similar in meaning as putting emphasis on that event? Affecting, nope. Especially, yes. Organizing, who would organize? Advertising, nope. So in this case, it's the word especially, because when you say especially this, so that means out of all, you would say that everything in my shop is good. Sorry, you would say that everything in my shop is high quality, especially this special item, which is the best of all, right? So you say that make a general statement, and then to highlight a particular thing or event, you add especially before that. So that's why that's our correct option here. Did you get that right? I hope you did. If there were errors, make sure that you pause or go back to the video, spend the time reading passage again, and in your mind, try to work out why you picked one option in place of another. Okay, that's the way how you establish good fundamentals, good basics in the language, and essentially that's what you need to score well, right? Okay, let's go to the last question in this practice set. Question number 5. Here we are. All right, that's 90 seconds. Let's go ahead and have a look at the answers. The first one, the sword blank from the dagger when the construction of longer blades became possible. So close your eyes for a moment and think when I say this blank from that. So what word usually comes to your mind when you hear from something else? So you probably came or evolved. So you want to find something that's similar in meaning to these words. And let's look at the options. Duplicated from, nope. Developed, yes, you can say developed from because it's similar in meaning to evolved from or came from. Competed from, you never say competed from, you say competed with or competed against. Painted from, doesn't make any sense here. So the right option is developed. The sword developed from the dagger. The next one, the blank sword-like weapons are found at this place in Turkey and date to around 3300 BC. So the blank sword, and they're saying, they're talking about to around some time period. So probably you need to find a word, which is in similar, which conveys that same historic sense. So out of the words that are available, oldest is the word, which conveys that sense of history. So that the first, the oldest sword-like weapons were found and date to around 3300 BC. Okay, the next one, until the late Bronze Age, because the tensile strength of bronze is blank low, and consequently longer blades would bend easily. Now, uh, they're talking about the tensile strength as a result of which the blades would bend easily. So we need to find a word which adds to the meaning of low, tells us how low or in comparison to what, and the only word that fits that bill here is relatively. Because when you say it's relatively low, means compared to something, it's lower than expected, or in proportion to this, or in reference to something else, it's low. The other options here is tough low. It doesn't make any sense. Never heard that. Is confusingly low. Now it can make sense in this in the way that it is so low that it confuses people. But other than that, it doesn't really make any logical sense in here. Modestly is modestly low. So modestly means a very small quantity or a very small amount. So if it was a very small amount, why would the blades bend so easily? Yep. In other words, it wouldn't have that much of an impact. So that's why the right word here is relatively. So compared to stronger weapons or stronger things, yeah, it is relatively low, and that's why the blades bend easily. The next option, copper and tin were mined in blank places and later brought together. So that means, something about the places, and then from those places they were brought together. So to be brought together, what they would have to be? They would have to be in different places. Okay, and that's the correct option there. But look at the options. So were mined in tourist places and brought together. Doesn't really. This is not about tourism or nothing to do. Mining in a tourism place. So nope, that we won't use that. In political places, places can be political. Places can have political value. But again, in our context, it doesn't make any sense. In diverse places, now diverse means places which are very different in nature. Okay, which are very different from one another. All we want to say is that places they were different, so which were separated, and that's why we use different. You use diverse, when you want to show that the characteristics are very diverse. Okay, so for example, the food habits of people in this region, in this area, are very diverse, very different from one another. So, but that's not what you want to do here. You just want to tell that the places are separated, they are away from each other, and that's why we use the word different. The last one, it was not until the development of a stronger alloys such as steel and blank heat treatment processes, that long swords became practical. So now something happened, the alloys became stronger, and something uh, happened to the heat treatment processes which made long swords practical. So let's look at the options. Improved processes made it practical. Makes sense that just as the alloys became stronger, the heat treatment processes, their methods to make the swords, that also improved. Other words, and important doesn't make any sense. And international heat treatment processes doesn't make any sense, and imaginary doesn't make any sense. So because we needed a word, which would tell us what happened to those heat treatment processes. They became better and they improved. So that's why the correct option here is improved. All right, so that's been a long practice session. Five passages, multiple choice, multiple options. Um, but the good thing is you have now completed that practice session number one of the fill in the blanks multiple choice. I suggest definitely take a break now, and when you're ready, up for it again. feel free to go to practice set number 2. Alright, all the best.